Hey everybody, we are here on location at the Anegada Beach Hotel, and I am with Bunchie. How are you today, Bunchie?
I'm great. I'm having a good day.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you here. So, everybody, I'm Amy with Greenluxe, and I'm really excited to share this very special hotel and island with you today through Bunchie's eyes.
Yeah.
Bunchie is a local resident born here on the island, and there are so many unique attributes about this island that he's going to tell us about, as well as how important ecotourism is here on Anegada. So without further ado, so you were born and raised here, right, Bunch?
There, and I grew up on Anegada. All my life I've been in Anegada.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I'm saying it maybe incorrectly, so say it for us.
Anegada.
Anegada.
Yeah. Some people say Anegada.
I think that's the
Yeah.
United States pronunciation.
There's not necessarily a wrong way to say it. It's actually it's either a Dutch or a Spanish word, but the meaning is a drowned land.
Yes.
Or a drowned island, and that's because the island is completely flat.
Yes.
Yeah. It's actually the highest point on the island is about 27 feet above sea level.
Which is not much.
It's not
especially
much.
when you're talking about hurricanes,
That building
right?
is higher. Yeah.
But that is one of the things that makes it so unique, right?
Yes.
Out of all, I think, is there 40 or 60 islands in the British Virgin Islands?
60. It's a 60, roughly 60 something islands and keys.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what makes this one so unique, one of the many things, is that it's the only non-volcanic island?
Yes, and because it's non-volcanic, it's actually made of a mixture of coral and limestone.
Okay.
So our sand, it's all coral sand, and a lot of the island itself is limestone, which is a pretty hard, rocky substance. But yeah, it's very unique in that sense because all the other islands you'll find boulders in Virgin Gorda, some in Tortola, the big hills and mountains, and that's all because it's volcanic, and here it's just different.
And that's beautiful as well, but I think what makes this so stunning is that it is that quintessential, especially coming from the states,
Yeah.
Ohio, which is not tropical at all.
Yeah.
You get that white, beautiful sand
Yeah.
and that incredibly blue-green water.
Yes.
And the island is completely surrounded by coral, as you were saying, right?
It's either the third or the fourth largest barrier reef in the entire world.
Wow.
I want to say it's probably either the second or third largest on this side of the world. Of course, the most famous one will be the largest, which is the Great Barrier Reef in the Pacific Ocean. But so it's definitely the largest in the Caribbean. And then in the Atlantic Ocean, it's probably like second or third, something like that.
Which is really, that's something to be very proud of.
Yeah.
I'm sure that helps with the ecotourism.
Yes.
Draw. And, we snorkeled yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm always on a hunt to see turtles, and I never get to see turtles, but I saw turtles yesterday.
Great.
And we went to Conch Island, and I want you to tell us all about Conch Island. Conch is, a huge part
Yes.
of this island. Everywhere you go,
Yes.
it is crazy how prolific conchs are.
Conch and lobster.
Conch and lobster,
Mhm.
which, again, is so unique because you go to the States, and that is really a delicacy, and
Yes.
it's something special that you get here. It's not that it's not special, but it is abound, right?
Yeah.
You can have it morning, noon, and night. My husband's
Yes.
been enjoying lobster Benedict every morning. But tell
it's
us
so good.
how significant conchs are, and just a little bit about the
Yeah.
history of that as well.
So Conch Island, it was actually a tradition started way back in the Amerindian days, and the Amerindians would have been the native people that would have occupied the Caribbean as well as South America prior to the Europeans coming over and discovering the islands for themselves. So in Anegada specifically, what the Amerindians figured out very early on is that when you go and you dive conch, that's how we catch it. We physically will go in the water, you dive, you swim down, you pick it up. What they discovered is when you take the conch out of the shell, because conch, they're born with their shell, they grow with their shell, they're physically attached to their shell. They're not like how some crabs might be, like hermit crabs will outgrow their shell and then they switch and they look for a new shell. Conch aren't like that. That shell is with them forever. So when you cut the conch from the shell to remove it from the shell, and you throw that shell back, the other conch in the island, when around the area, when they see that conch shell, that discarded conch shell, to them they go, oh my god, it's a dead body, and then they run away.
They're smart, Bunchie.
Exactly, they get scared. They're like, that one's, something happened,
Yeah.
we need to leave this
Yes.
area because this
Interesting.
area is not safe anymore.
Okay.
And with conch, they're very slow moving creatures. So if you went to a specific spot and you found maybe 50 conch in this one area, you took 10. If you came back the next day, you'd find 40 in that same area. But if you threw back that conch shell, if you came back 2-3 days later, that 40 that you would have left, they're all gone now because they scattered, they left, they're scared of that one shell. So the Amerindians, they figured that out really early on, and they just decided, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to find one central location. Everyone, when you catch your conch, everyone, you just throw your shells in this one spot. And that's been going on for hundreds of years. And eventually, the locals that are currently living here now from our grandfather days, they all adopted the same practice. And we've all just been contributing to this one spot. So after a few hundred years, you now have a literal island made of only nothing but conch shells.
And we saw that yesterday, and I'm telling you, it is a sight to behold. You can't even, and we're gonna B-roll in some of that, for you. But it is incredible. I mean, how many shells do you think are there?
It's
like how many jelly beans are in a jelly bean
Yeah,
jar?
it'd be so hard to guess. It could
There's
be
thousands, though.
hundreds of thousands, probably.
Wow, okay.
I would assume. Maybe saying 1 million might be a stretch, but like if someone came and counted it and told me it was 1 million, I wouldn't be surprised.
No, because now there's multiple sites, right? There
Yes.
is the Conch Island, but then there's a few
Yeah.
kind of sprinkled around that
few
they've
smaller
started.
ones.
Yes.
And you can actually find, if you go on the eastern end of Anegada, which is completely uninhabited.
Okay.
Because if you look at a map, it kind of ends where the settlement is, and then there's like another half of the island, the eastern end, where there's nothing out there, no road, anything. But that's where the Amerindians primarily were. So if you walk the beach out on those sides, you'll find piles again just stacked up on the beach.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's very interesting, and I think the only other place in the world that does something similar to this is the Bahamas.
With the conch.
With the conch, yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't think anywhere else in the world does that piling.
It is very, very unique. So let's talk about some of the other attributes of the island that really, this has been on my bucket list for a really long time, and one of the reasons is because of a lot of the animals that are here.
Yeah.
Different animals, and not necessarily get up close and personal, but just to know that they're here is really special.
Yeah.
And some other things. So what are those things that draw people to the island?
So we actually have a bit of endangered animals on the island.
Okay.
So you mentioned turtles earlier, which
Yes.
we know that's probably like one of the more popular endangered species.
Yes.
There's an abundance of turtles on Anegada. You go on the grasslands, just like maybe in 2, 3, 4 feet of water, there's turtles everywhere.
Yes.
Which is great. Before, back in the day, in my grandfather's days, it was a normal custom to actually catch and eat turtles.
Yes.
But that practice has gone pretty much extinct at this point. It hardly ever happens anymore. Also, we have a species of iguana that's indigenous to Anegada. It's called the Anegada rock iguana.
Okay.
And that it was near extinction at one point in time, and it got so bad to the point where now they've set up a reserve for them.
Oh, okay.
So
and was that because they were being killed for the meat as well?
No, actually.
No. Okay.
So the problem with the iguanas, actually, Anegada, once the Europeans came, they brought cats, and the cats breed like crazy.
Yes.
And Anegada kind of developed a sort of wild feral cat problem.
Okay.
And the cats would eat the baby iguanas.
Yes.
The bigger ones, they get pretty big.
Yes.
And they can fend for themselves, but the babies have absolutely no chance at survival once those cats find them. And they were pretty much hunted to near extinction because of the cats. But they've set up a sanctuary now, which is free to visit. Anyone can go and check it out and visit it, where they have cages set up. So now what we do is we find the nests. We set up cameras, those
Yeah,
wildlife
of
motion
course.
sensor
Yes.
cameras. So as soon as they hatch and they kind of crawl out of that nest, they take pictures. The people for the sanctuary, they check out the cameras every once in a while just to see. And then once they have some movement going, once it's hatching season, they go out, they catch the babies, they take them back to the sanctuary, and they raise them until they are big enough to fend for themselves so that the cats can't do anything to them. And then about once a year, they have this big event. They involve the school children, and they call it the running of the iguanas, where they take them out with the school kids and let the kids lift up the boxes, and all the iguanas go free. And then
Oh, that's a really great project.
yeah, they're
I'd love
in
to hear that.
partnership with the Fort Worth Zoo, I think, which
okay.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, they have a zoo in San Diego,
Okay.
and I think also one maybe in Texas.
Okay.
So they actually have a few of the iguanas at their zoo as well too. And then the only other place you can probably find them is on Richard Branson's island in Necker, because he does a lot of conservation
Yes,
efforts over there
yes.
too. So he has a few of them over there too, and they've been doing pretty good over there. Actually, if you go to visit, you see them everywhere. They're doing very, very nicely over there.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's something very cyclical that it's really important to protect those endemic species to an
Yes.
island, because that helps, it's kind of twofold, right? You don't want people to disturb them, but
Yeah.
it also helps draw tourism. And tourism
Yes.
is really the only economic driver here.
Yes.
So it's very important. Okay, so let's talk about another species
Yeah.
that is a big draw.
Yes.
You don't always see them.
No, you
and we
don't.
might have a little friend here that looks like him.
Yeah, that's a little bodyguard.
Yeah. Protecting the conch.
Yeah.
Yes, so tell us about the flamingos that are here.
So the flamingos actually did go extinct on Anegada at one point in time. Some have speculated that they were probably hunted for their meat
Yes.
during the time of the Amerindians, actually.
Okay.
And what they did was they reintroduced a species here. I think it's the Cuban flamingos,
Yes.
which is very similar to what we already had here.
Okay.
They started with, I think it was a flock of about 25 of them,
Okay.
because you have to have a certain amount
Sure.
of them for them to be comfortable enough to start to breed. I don't remember the exact year that was started.
I read it was like in the 90s or something.
Yes, I know it was
Yes.
somewhere in the 90s, but I'm not sure the exact year. But now the flock is well over 500 going strong,
Wow.
and it's to the point now where they've actually started to separate into smaller flocks
Okay.
now. So there's one big large flock which is about 500, then there's another smaller one which is about 100, and then every once in a while you see this extra small flock that's about maybe 20, 30 of them
Okay.
that kind of chill. Actually, those are the ones that would hang around
Okay.
just back here. But yeah, people come to the island to see the flamingos, and they don't always see them because they're birds and they
Yes.
fly
Yes.
and they do what they want.
Yes.
So sometimes you could catch them in the pond. They like the pond because it's rich with shrimp,
Yep.
which is their main meal. But if they're not in the pond, then chances are they're probably on a reef somewhere, because they'll just be standing on a reef, just chilling, eating, just relaxing on a reef randomly in the ocean. Or sometimes they'll head out to the beach and they'll just chill on a beach. So it is kind of hard to find them, but when you do get to see them, sometimes if you're lucky, especially out on this North Shore, you can see them
They'll
fly
fly
by,
by, yeah.
and it's the most beautiful thing ever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how special. And, I'm a huge nature and animal lover,
Mm-hmm.
but I've finally gotten to the point where sometimes not seeing them is a better thing, because
Yeah.
you don't want them disturbed.
Yes.
And so just knowing they're here, I think, is magical.
Yeah.
But I'm still gonna hunt a little bit for them tomorrow and try to look through the
binoculars.
binoculars.
Yeah,
yes.
the little lookout.
Yes.
Yeah.
So okay, so lots. I mean, it is a culmination here, really, of
Mhm.
uber relaxation, but at the
Yes.
same time, if you're a nature lover, if you like to take in nature, you can do that. Let's talk about the hotel, though. This is
Yeah.
a really special place, and again, I have been looking at this place for a really long time, wanting to come. Dreams do come true, everyone. But you have these beachfront palapas,
Mhm.
and that's what we are staying in. and that's what I think probably really draws people. It is
Yes.
so picturesque, so different from probably where you live every day.
Yeah.
Tell us about the hotel and those palapas.
So the hotel itself, the property is about roughly 10 years old.
Okay.
And the palapas are kind of one of the newer things that they added, but they are a big draw, and I think they're perfect for someone, especially who loves nature, because essentially it's glamping, right? It's like luxury camping. You're surrounded by nature. You're close to the beach. The structures that they're built out of, they're sourced economically. They're not chopping down forests
Sure.
but they're made of wood and canvas, and they're
sturdy.
They are.
I mean, they're not going anywhere.
And they did the way that they built it. They did their best to not disturb the environment around them. So if you're staying in one of the palapas, you'll notice that there's trees everywhere, there's bushes everywhere. You feel like you're camping.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the most important things about it is that they kept the essence of the land.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you the other things I really like. There's really cute goats that you can hear from a distance and are walking up on the sand.
Yeah.
And there are wild cow.
Yeah.
And so it's I don't know, to me it's so lovely to see them just on their own doing their thing and enjoying all that vegetation that they have not disturbed.
When it gets really rainy, then you can get lucky. You'll also see a few ducks around as well too.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we have lots of different birds. There's animals everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful mangroves. Tomorrow I am going to do a stand-up paddleboard, and
nice.
Hoping that I don't increase my flamingo skin tomorrow. But, something that I find really interesting about an island like this, and that I really want to convey to my viewers, is that, it's so important that you tread lightly on places like this. This is an 8-mile long, is that right?
Yeah, so the island itself, it's roughly 16 square miles.
Okay.
So if you're familiar with Virgin Gorda is 8 square miles, so it's about double the size of Virgin Gorda.
Okay.
But remember I told you earlier that whole eastern end, there's nothing out there.
Yes.
So most people you're really experiencing maybe about 50% of the island at most.
Okay.
And also remember the middle part of that island is all ponds. So it's probably a lot less than 50% that you actually get to experience of the island.
And are those salt ponds?
Yes, they're all natural salt ponds.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where the flamingos like to hang out.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, to that point, even smaller area that you are coming to, and even more important, that you're really paying attention to how much you bring here, how much you use while you're here. This is an island that they don't get anything unless they bring it onto the island.
Yeah.
So I think just making sure that you are really thinking about reducing your amount of waste, packing as lightly as you can, and just remembering that you only have what you have here, and just trying to absorb it all. And I don't know, I don't want to use the word demanding, but just maybe adjusting your lifestyle a little bit. I think
you're not going to be able to buy a phone charger on the island.
Not going to be. A tip, and you can read my blog as well when I leave here. But it's important that you do think ahead. Those really absolute things you need. If it's medication or eco-friendly bug spray, reef-safe sunscreen. Any of those things, make sure you bring them. Because once you get here, you probably are not getting them. But that's part of the novelty I really believe in too. If you like glamping, if you like being out in nature, and by no means do you feel like you're being without anything. I mean, Lobster Benedict is like what kings eat.
Yeah.
My king back there. So you are not going to go without, but I think it's important to just think about minimizing what you can bring here.
Yeah, people come here for the peace, the quiet,
yes,
the relaxation. When you're here on a beach, you can expect that you're gonna be the only ones on the beach.
Yes, that is absolutely true.
Right? So, and I mean, the food is gonna always be amazing.
Yes.
And the locally caught fresh seafood always goes a long way. But yeah, it's best to plan ahead.
Yes.
Don't forget your phone charger, of course.
Or forget it. Maybe
Or
you
forget
should
it. Yeah.
forget
I mean,
it.
a lot of people, they come here and the first thing they ask is, "Do you guys have Wi-Fi?" And we're like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh shoot," because
Exactly.
they don't want the Wi-Fi.
Yep.
They want to be able to unplug and just be on the beach and not have to worry about emails and work and
Yeah.
the news back home and what's not.
No TVs in the rooms in the palapas. So
In the
that's
palapas,
nice.
no. We do have TVs
Oh, okay,
in the
okay.
hotel rooms,
Okay.
as well as there's satellite as well too. But I don't think most people use it.
No.
But it's there if you want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to say too, the team here, the associates, everyone is so wonderful, so welcoming, goes out of their way for you. The food is fantastic. So I'm gonna link all of this stuff in the show notes, and I hope that as you're planning your next vacation, you really give Anegada a chance for the running, and of course the Anegada Beach Hotel. What should we leave the guests with here listening? Any?
If you want to visit somewhere where you can just totally unwind and feel like you can forget about the rest of the world, literally feel like you have no worries, no stress whatsoever, maybe finish that book you've been kind of putting aside for the longest while. Maybe finish the whole series of books, that you've been just putting aside, that you kind of haven't gotten time to get to. This is the perfect place for you. And enjoy good company, good people, good music,
So
good
safe.
food. Literally, you leave your car doors unlocked. You can leave your key in your door, your doors for your house. I don't lock my door at home. It just stays open. And then, of course, good drinks.
Yes, and that leads us to cheers, Bunchie.
Cheers.
I can't thank you enough for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, we are so excited to be here. We can't wait to come back, and we can't wait to bring you this incredible place, more of this incredible place in the weeks to come. So, cheers. Here's to
Cheers, everyone.
vacationing sustainably and living
Yes.
sustainably as much as you can, right?
Yeah, amen to that, yeah.
Thanks, Bunchie.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.